G'day, ZiggyD here, and I'm back with Mr. Happy today to talk more about Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn. And today we're going to be talking about what class/job we are excited to play and why. But first things first, how are you going, Mr. Happy, and what have you been up to?
I'm doing good. I've just been coming up with more Final Fantasy XIV content. Been answering a lot of questions lately. More and more questions keep piling in, and I got to keep answering them. Started doing a little bit of filler content, playing some other games when the beta's down, which it's not anymore. So of course I'm just playing Final Fantasy XIV all day.
Yep, I wanted to do this video when the beta wasn't up, but fortunately I've been sick for the last week, so it's just recovering from that now. But pretty excited to talk about this. This is one of the questions you've been getting a lot of, I hear. About what class you like to play. Yep. Alrighty, so let's jump straight into it. And first up, I want to hear from you. What class are you excited for and why?
Well, the class I definitely want to play the most is Monk. I really like the whole stance changing thing. It's a very interactive way of handling the damage dealing job. And it's just something that I don't really see in many of the other jobs. I mean, they each have their own sort of cliches and things like that that you have to manage. White mages have to deal with a lot of free casting. Black mages have a rotation. Everybody has their own way of doing things, but I just think that Monks is the most involved and it just gives me the most satisfaction when I'm playing it.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like one of the most active ones from what I read. I haven't actually played the Pugilist yet, at least, but even the Pugilist alone itself seemed like you're changing stances quite a lot and changing between all those different forms. And it also seemed very real in terms of a martial arts sense, which I thought was really cool. Thematically very cool class. But yeah.
What about you? What are you looking forward to playing?
Well, I'm pretty. It's a tough choice. It's a tough choice. I've played a lot of Lancer and Archer in the closed beta, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be going one of those. I am enjoying leveling the Lancer far more. I really like the positional-based gameplay of the Lancer. So you're getting your side attacks, getting your back attacks. Feels very active for me, and I've come from a lot of more action combat based MMOs, so having to really work on your positioning like that I think feels really important. It seems like you could get something like that from the Pugilist, but just not familiar enough with the Pugilist to say definitively that I'll play it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Lancer or Archer. But my reason for the Archer, and probably the one that I'm going to main, is because not only is it that same DPS class which I really like playing, but I think you're also going to get that support from when you change into the Bard job later on down the track. Now, we've actually talked a little bit about this, but what are your thoughts on the Bard as a job overall?
A lot of people are really upset. A lot of people go, hey, I want to play a ranged DPS, I don't want to play a support, and I can kind of feel for them a little bit. But it's not like the Bard's damage is significantly lower. When it's singing, it's significantly lower. It's a 20% decrease while you're singing. But I like to attribute the damage, like when I look at how much damage was done over the fight, I like to look at the support that I gave the rest of my team as my damage. And keeping everybody in the fight longer is a way of doing that. So, I mean, that's my outlook on Bard, and that's why I actually really like Bard. I mean, the fact, because TP starvation is one of the biggest concerns people have right now, because prolonged fights, people are saying, how am I ever going to manage with my my TP? And Bard's one of the answers to that, because Bard's got a giant AoE TP regain. And it's such a vital piece to how the game works right now that I don't see how you could hate it unless you were really banking on being just a ranged damage dealing class. Those are the people I sympathize for, since that's not really there for them right now.
It seems like a lot of people are also concerned about how different it is from, I believe, like Final Fantasy XI's Bard, and people have a misconception about what the Bard will be based on that. What was Final Fantasy XI's Bard like? You played that game as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I played Final Fantasy XI for 7 years. That's actually where that's how everyone has that first love MMO. That was my first love MMO, and it was a masochistic way to jump into the game. I'll tell you that. It was the Bard now is a support DPS. The Bard back then was a pure support. Some people had some niche ways of, for a while, maybe Bard could tank if they had a very specific set of gear and they avoided getting hit at all. But for the most part, they would go sing songs for the casters, go sing songs for the melee, and then maybe throw a couple of songs in there. But a lot of the time, it was just sing a song and watch everyone do everything. And a lot of people either loved it or hated it. Bards were one of those. It was a job that when you leveled it so fast it was fun. But once you got it to max level, you could not get off of it because everybody wanted you there. Your buffs were that important, and I feel like these buffs are that important still, but you're actually bringing something more to the table, which is why I really like Bard in 14. It's not something that you can just do something and then go sit AFK and, just watch the whole fight unfold. Oh, you guys wiped. Well, I did what I could do. It's not that way anymore. You have a more important role in the party.
It also seems like they have incredible DPS potential when they're not being, when they're not fulfilling their bardly duties. It seems very competitive with Lancer and Pugilist even. I'm curious to see how that plays out in the end game, but
yeah, they have a lot of abilities that don't sit on they don't wait on combos for. I mean, they have 2 damage over time abilities that reset their ability that ignores the global cooldown, and that ability is as strong as your base ability for your combos, and it doesn't interrupt your combos, so you can just having the ability to constantly spam off an ability because your dots are ticking is just something that makes them very bursty, and they're able to do a lot. They have a crit buff. They have an ability that automatically crits every once in a while. So all of their abilities really work together perfectly. I think that's a pretty common theme though in the DPS classes. They really tried to make sure all the abilities had a place, and that it wasn't just like, I know a lot of other games you kind of have those abilities that sit on the bar just because you have them and you don't really use them. I don't see much of that in 14, which I really do like. Makes you very busy.
Yeah, it seems even early on leveling the archer, it seems like because you've got those ones that slot in between the global cooldowns as well. Once you sort of get to that level 20, it starts to get more and more interesting, and that's why I suspect it's going to be the class I enjoy the most. As I said, the earlier levels before that, the Lancer feels more exciting because of that positioning-based play. But I think the Archer, once those abilities start to come in, it's going to be very, very fun and exciting. I have to give a special mention to the Conjurer, and I think a lot of people are going to be playing Conjurer. Which there's always a shortage of healers in these games, but I'm seeing so many people say that for that reason they're going to be a Conjurer, and I think it's also a really well done class. I'm at least going to level it to 10, and then strongly consider leveling it more just so I can get picked up into dungeons very easily. How do you feel about the Conjurer and how it's looking?
I feel like the only fear I have for the Conjurer is when Scholar's abilities get revealed. Because Conjurer, I mean, don't get me wrong, they did a good job with Conjurer's abilities. But I feel like what you're doing as a Conjurer or a White Mage is a little bit too linear. I feel like they removed some of what Stone Skin used to be good for. Stone Skin is just it's a shield that you put on somebody, and then once they take a certain amount of damage, it breaks. And that's good and all, but I feel like the shield isn't significant enough. And I just feel like they need more raid-wide utility. I mean, sure, you have Protect, which is, of course, the most important raid-wide utility you can pretty much get when you're doing any fight. But other than that, like Stone, I don't know when they're going to be using Stone and Arrow too often, unless maybe there's a burn phase or they're not casting anything and they just want to get some damage in. But I don't really know how that's going to play out until we hit 50, because those spells I really feel like were more for leveling than they were for the actual job definitely they're supposed to do. I feel like they're just filler. It's like, hey, you have some abilities that hurt. There you go solo a little bit.
Yeah, I get that sense as well, because in terms of fulfilling your role, if you're in more of a serious raid or dungeon, if you're spending mana and get mana starved because you're casting, damage dealing abilities when that's not your role, and other people die because of that, then you've failed in your heal role. And although I do find the cleric stance very interesting for leveling. I think it's going to be a fun leveling class. I think it's actually going to be a lot more popular than people initially think when they think of healers.
Well, you have a cure. What can you say? A lot of people are having trouble with the level 15 quest fights right now in the beta, and having a cure just puts you way ahead of the game. I remember I went and unlocked Conjurer just for the cure, even though I had the antidotes for the poison. I was like, I just want the cure. I can't take this. I gotta have it.
Yeah, that's my plan, to at least level to 10 and then switch classes to either Lancer or Archer, just to have the cure and protect, because they're great spells for anyone to have while they're leveling.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So I believe you're also pretty interested in the Arcanist and the jobs that it'll transition into. It's an interest, just the fact that it can transition into 2 jobs already is interesting enough. But I don't know much about the Arcanist yet, so I'm keen to hear your take on it and why you are excited for it.
Well, I mean, we touched on it briefly last time. We just kind of touched on the fact that it can go from Arcanist to both Summoner and Scholar. The main difference is that Summoner and Scholar are literally 2 completely different roles. Arcanist as a base is more of a damage over time and buffing sort of class. That's what they specialize in. I know they do get Carbuncle, which is their original pet. I know he has a tanking form and a healing form. I don't remember them saying if he had a DPS form. But I don't really know how much I'm going to rely on an AI pet's healing, or their tanking for that matter. And they haven't really said anything about Arcanist having base healing abilities. They say buff. I don't know if that's sort of included in there, but it's kind of interesting to see them go to a job that's completely focused on damage to a job that's completely focused on healing, and them getting different pets in the process. I mean, I'm more excited for Scholar because if I'm going to heal on anything, I want it to be something that heals over time, and that seems to be what they're saying Scholar's going to be good at. I'm also very curious to see how they said that the fairies, the spells it casts, will depend on the spells you cast. I'm curious to see how that works because we don't know anything yet. All we've seen is a fairy and some nice looking armor. And then for Summoner, a lot of people seem to be upset that the summons aren't gigantic as they were in 11. In 11, your summons pretty much overshadowed you. Like you were an afterthought. But the Summoner role here isn't quite the same, so they're not as big. Like the Summoner has a more active role. They don't just summon a pet and the pet goes into battle like it was in 11. They have other responsibilities. They still have that damage over time and that buffing sort of responsibility. And I really want to see them both. I want to play Scholar more, but I want to see them both because neither of those things were even remote. None of them. Nothing comes even remotely close to existing like that in the game currently. So I want to see what kind of job they did implementing those kind of concepts.
Yeah, it seems like just overall it's got so much variety in it compared to the stuff that's in the game now. And yeah, I'm just I'm confused at the class and the jobs that it can go into just because there's so much different there. What was I going to say? You were planning on leveling the Arcanist, right? Because you've already got a bunch of level 50s, but the Arcanist is not one of them. So
yeah, Arcanist is something I definitely got to go back and do. I got to find time to go back and do it though, because there's going to be some other important things that got to get done, especially when we have that couple of weeks in open beta and those few days in early access to get the jump start on everyone who didn't pre-order the game or didn't pay for the game when it was back at 1.0.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will at least be trying it out of curiosity. I'm keeping an eye on it because from reading about how the mechanics of just the Arcanist itself are going to work, it seemed very interesting as well. So let's transition into something fun. What is the class/job that you are least looking forward to, or you are least excited about? You think is the worst or the most boring, or just you personally wouldn't want to play?
I personally think that the single most boring job in the game right now is Paladin. Now, a lot of people say tanking's never exciting, and I hear that in a lot of different games. But when you look at the difference between the Warrior's ability kit and the Paladin's ability kit, you see what they're both supposed to do. Like Paladin's supposed to be the guy who tanks the big boss, and he's got abilities to last a long time, even without heals. He's got abilities to let your healers focus on other things. He's got abilities to take damage for 4 other players. And the problem is, actively what you're doing in combat is very limited. They have only, I believe, 2 different combos, and they both begin with your level 1 ability. I think it's like Fast Blade, Riot Blade, something. They have one that heals mana, and they have one that generates extra enmity. And everything else is off the global cooldown, and they're just abilities that you can use, like increased healing received, increased defense, make yourself invincible for a few seconds. They have they have 2 passives they can switch between, one of which I don't think is useful at all. It like makes your auto attacks do 25 extra damage. I don't know. It's either that or you have 25% more health and generate more enmity. It's like, which one am I going to pick? Yeah. I just feel like there's not enough going on in combat for Paladin. Meanwhile, Warrior has the Wrath system giving them extra crit. They have ways to absorb damage. They have ways to drain HP. But they have so many different weapon skills. It's not boring. So it's just, especially in comparison to Warrior, Paladin just seems so underwhelming and not fun to play.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense that a lot more people are excited for the Marauder Warrior than they are for the Gladiator Paladin. I think you get that a lot when you have 2 classes that fill very similar roles. Like the Lancer and the Pugilist are both quite interesting in their own right. I suspect more people will be more interested in the Pugilist overall because it seems like a more dynamic class. Even though I'm personally excited for the Lancer, but yeah, they get cool armor when they turn into a Dragoon. That'll get enough people excited. But yeah.
and they can jump around.
Yeah, they can jump.
Although a lot of Final Fantasy XI players like myself are like, where's the pet dragon? So many people are asking me that. Do they get a pet dragon? And I always have to say no, and they're always so upset every time.
See, at least they're pretty cool though. But yeah, it seems like with the Paladin, it's not. I suspect that it's going to be much more interesting later on once the game's bubbled along for a bit and people find more what its role can be and how it can be interesting. But I think at launch, not many people are going to be interested in the Paladin. So that would be my second choice for my least favorite one. But I would have to say my least favorite is the Thaumaturge. Now the concept. The class itself, I'm actually talking about as well, not the job. I think the Black Mage will be pretty good, potentially. We'll see. But the Thaumaturge itself has an interesting mechanic. It's got that, the dual buff systems where you're switching between ice and fire, and then some extra lightning dots and things like that. And that all seems very interesting. Reading about it, I was incredibly excited to play the class, and testing it. Yeah.
I know where this is going. I know exactly where it's going. You pressed fire, 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 transpose, ice, 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 transpose, fire, 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 fire.
Basically. And even then, for such a powerful seeming nuking sort of class, they just DPS just doesn't seem to cut it. Like they kind of Thaumaturge can fulfill this healing role, but then they're not really better than a Conjurer for that. And then they can do this this DPS role, but they're not really DPS class. Like they don't compete. They on the scale of Archer, Lancer, Pugilist, Thaumaturge, it seems like.
Well, let me just tell you this. Go do Copperbell Mines with a Thaumaturge who spams Blizzard 2, and your outlook might change a little bit on that. So, I mean, it's still only one button, but have you done Copperbell Mines yet?
Yeah, I've done Copperbell Mines as a Lancer.
So you know how you have the first boss, which is waves of enemies?
Yep.
Imagine just a Thaumaturge killing them all in 2 spells each, and then you get to the last guy, and it's just like a regular fight. And then imagine the Bloblet boss when he breaks down for the 3rd time, I think, and 2-shotting all the little Bloblets.
So it's there, the potential there. Maybe there's a bit of misconception about the DPS then, because it seems like a lot of people are complaining about the DPS, and from what I saw of it, seemed pretty lackluster just because of the way the mechanics worked out. And a lot of times
a big problem, and I'm actually going to go into Black Mage with this. Another big problem is nobody seems to really understand where Flare fits into everything. Flare uses all of your mana, and it puts you into Astral Fire 3, which is good, except for the fact that you have no mana to do anything with Astral Fire 3. So what are you using it for? Well, if you switch over to Ice, you're not going to be an Umbral Ice 3. You're going to be an Umbral Ice 1.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work quite. A lot of people are just having a hard time figuring out where they fit in all of this, and it's kind of the backwards way of how it was in 1.0, because the advantage they have in 1.0 is that everybody had to build TP first. You started with 0 and you had to build it up when you were a melee class. Meanwhile, they started with front-loaded mana and they could just throw it all out there right from the get-go. So they were way more desired in most cases than melee classes, where obviously some melee classes like Monk, who could just use some ridiculous abilities like 100 Fists, give them no attack delay. They had great uses, and there are some AoE uses that you needed other jobs for. But right now, they don't have that same strength anymore because TP is front-loaded. You start with 1,000. So it's really difficult to say where they're going to go with this. I mean, they are still going to tune things before open beta. Yeah. They've made that very clear to us. But could they really tune it enough? Can they really get the numbers right so that it's not overpowered, but it is in some way influential? They have some other things. Of course, they have sleep, so your white mages don't have to do it. And they do have that they have AoE bind, which is always good when they're Blizzard 2. They have utility. They actually have a defensive cooldown for a party member. It reduces the elemental damage they take by a certain percentage. I'd have to look at my notes. But I know it's when you cast on somebody, they take less damage. So they have a lot of raid utility, but that's not really why people want to play Black Mage. That's not really what people are thinking. And they will have access to Arcanist's abilities also. That's another thing to remember. So maybe the damage over time spells, weaving those in, might have a little bit more importance, but then wouldn't you just rather have a summoner? I just don't know how it's all going to work out. Yeah,
just at the moment it seems kind of uninteresting. I do have to echo, Sleepy is really good, and it's nice having, when you are in a dungeon, having someone there with sleep to sleep those ads. But yeah, just... as you said, that's not the reason people want to play Black Mage. They want to blow stuff up, and it just doesn't feel quite that exciting there. But you've said that with Blizzard 2, the DPS potential is there, and hopefully more comes out of it. And as you said, when you start weaving those classes together later on, hopefully it becomes very interesting. I do think it has potential, but it's personally the class I'm the least excited for at the moment.
Yeah, I was even trying to think of maybe I could just do a Thunder Mage. Like a lot of people were also disappointed. In 11, you could pick an element and stick with it as your
Yeah,
Black Mage. Now you can't. Now you can't do that. I
Thunder's
was
just
thinking
kind of
maybe
a
maybe I could maybe when I have all three Thunder dots, maybe I could just do Thunder 1, Thunder 2, Thunder 3, and then just keep casting Thunder 1 and 2, and then like auto cast 3. I was like, I don't even know if that's even possible. I doubt it, but that would be interesting. Maybe a damage over time specific Black Mage, like maybe get some of the Arcanist dots and just focus all on that. I don't know.
well, I think all of the classes have a lot of potential, but yeah. Anyway, this has been a pleasure. I enjoy chatting about the game and the classes. I'm excited to see what comes open base, especially Arcanist. I hope that proves fun to level and the jobs that it goes into prove pretty interesting. And I hope I can come to a decision whether I want to choose Archer or Lancer. I think an Archer, but yeah, it's still a tough decision on that one. Maybe you can shoot me some tips later.
Yeah, I think if you like jumping, you'll want to go with Lancer at some point because
there's that there's that one ability where you jump and it explodes everything. That looks pretty exciting.
You do get one jumping ability with Archer though, so you do get some of that. Jumps backwards, you can't jump forwards like you can with Lance. Lancer's got like 4 jump abilities, I think. They have one that jumps forward, one that jumps and doesn't move you, one that jumps backwards, and one that just blows everything up. A lot of jumping.
Staying true to theme with the Dragoon, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know why I don't know what they have to jump so high for, maybe to catch their dragons that they're killing. I have no idea, but they're jumping a lot. It's a theme from 11, really.
Alrighty, let's go into some quick shout outs. For my subscribers, shout out your channel for us. You can find lots of Final Fantasy guides on your channel. Yes.
Yeah, anyway, I now have over 2,000 subscribers, so I want to thank each and every one of them because, 2 weeks ago I was at 600. Now I'm at almost 2,400, so it's multiplied by 4. Shout out to Athene. I don't know if you know who Athene is, but yeah, he actually got me my contract with Curse. So he's a bit of some people find him a little bit controversial, but he helped me out, and I'm going to be helping him out doing charity events for him, and I definitely got to shout out to him. I got to shout out to a few of my friends that want to remain unnamed when I shout them out, but I'm just shouting them out anyway. I'm not going to give their names, but they know who they are.
An anonymous shout out.
Yeah, an anonymous shout out, as awkward as that is. Shout out to Curse for the contract, obviously. Shout out to ZiggyD.tv. I'm going to give a shout out to your website because that's brand new. Why not? Everyone, if you like Path of Exile and stuff like that, go check that out because I was really enjoying the setup when you announced that. I thought that was really cool. And that definitely has potential to go places. So definitely go check that out.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I'm sure I'm missing one. Shout out to Mom and Dad. I don't know. They're never going to see this.
Awesome stuff. Well, I have to say, you've earned that subscriber growth. I've been watching a lot of your guides, and for introduction guides to Final Fantasy 14, it's been very helpful. So I highly recommend people check out his channel. I'll put it in the description below. And for Mr. Happy's subscribers, you can check out my channel as well, which is YouTube/ZiggyD Starcraft. My new website, which Mr. Happy mentioned, was ZiggyD.tv, and you can find pretty much everything you need to know about me there. But I'll be making some Final Fantasy content as well. I'm pretty excited for the game. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and this is Mr. Happy. Thanks for watching.
All right, take care, guys.